Hello there, and welcome to Wrong Ways Colombia cast with me, Brendan Wrongway Corrigan. Joining me today is fellow bearded warrior. Those of you watching this episode on YouTube will see that, and a man who knows Ireland perhaps as well as I do, journalist and writer Giovanni Figueroa. We'll come to your Irish links later, Giovanni, but this year you published your third book, Casa de Agua, which I have here, which translates as House of Water, and I appreciate you giving it to me, a novel that I'm slowly getting through. Reading a whole book in Spanish, it still requires a fair bit of effort my side. But it's described as a coming of age, and I'll add rather humorous story set in the 1960s in a Boyacá town. Boyacá, of course, is a Colombian department to the north of us here in Bogotá. Now, considering you're a Boyacense man yourself, Sogamoseño, which in fairness isn't quite a small town. I was there about this time last year, actually. But it is surrounded by many quaint villages that I can picture being the setting for the book. I'm guessing you wrote it with an eye to your homeland and stories you heard growing up. And I'll hasten to add, you're not a child of the 60s, you're more from the 80s, but I take it stories from your parents or whatever. Is that correct?
That is correct. And well, thank you, Brendan, for having me here in your program. It's a great honor. I mean, after you have interviewed a lot of interesting and important characters of the Colombian public life, it's really an honor. I really appreciate it, and also that you are reading the book and making that effort, because I know it's not that easy.
Well, look, I'll show you, Giovanni. I'm on page 81 there. Sorry, you can't see it there, but I'm getting through it. And it's very good. It's very good.
Good, thank you so much. Well, yeah, as you mentioned, the story is set in my hometown, which is Sogamoso. And as you said, it's not that small right now, but the story is, let's say, set around the 60s. Because it's a story that I created based on different stories from my dad, from my uncles, aunties, living under these difficult situations, with a absent father who was just very strict, very, like old times, and where they didn't know anything about human rights or children's rights or things like that. And then I collected all these stories until when I decided to become a writer. One day I remembered all those stories, and I said, well, maybe I'm going to come up with something like that, And then little by little, the story kind of took shape in my mind, and just wrote it.
Okay. Now, the father figure in the book, it's not based on your own father, I take it. As you said, an absent father, he goes missing. And when he comes back now and again, he might be a little bit drunk from what I can gather reading it. But so I take it it's not based on your own dad.
No, but actually, let's say like the young character, the narrator, that character is based on my dad's experiences as a kid. And of course, some things that he told me about his life, of course, I took it, to create the other characters, and also the main kind of absent character, which is an important figure in the book, which is the father, Jose Valdez. So it's based, but bigly on my grandpa, of course, and the relationship they had, when they were growing up as kids in a really poor and struggling environment.
Yeah, and of course, just about the actual title, La Casa de Agua, it's that the house, I take it, floods in the rainy season. That's what happens, and they go around in their little little tin tub, exploring the town.
Yeah, exactly. And some people after they read the story say, "Wow, this is like we're getting back to the days of Garcia Marquez and magic realism." But it's not like that, because actually it happens when you go to Barranquilla, for instance. You can see during the rainy season that the arroyos, like they call it like that, like creeks. Mm-hmm. It happens all of a sudden, like because the sewerage is not really good. Sometimes the floods are just very, very difficult, and you see just people just like swimming, and the water goes like up till the windows. And it's very, very difficult. And it happens in so many places, in not just in Colombia, but in places like that in Latin America. So it's a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
I didn't.
yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I did. My approach never was like to be really like a follower of the major realism. It's something, of course, that I read that is important to the literature in this country. But I tried just to create I wouldn't say modern, but maybe more like contemporary style.
Yeah, well, I mean, for somebody, as I said, obviously Spanish not my first language, but I find it an easy read. I have my dictionary. There are a few words every now and again that I don't get, but no, I think I get about 80 to 90% most of the time. And yeah, it's like it's an easy read, but well put together. I mean, I enjoy it. Just going back, you were talking about the floods. We're coming into November here, and even in Bogota, in parts of Bogota, there'll be floods. So yeah, it's very real life and modern. Even though it's set in the 60s, it could happen these days as well. But I have to ask about the water theme, because you wrote another book, Once Bajo la Lluvia, which what translates as 11 in the rain. So
exactly,
is there something to do with water in your life and in your writing?
Yeah, well, that's another book. A previous book is just a short story collection, and in which I took the title from one of the stories, 11 in the Rain, which is the story of a soccer team, a football team.
Okay.
And how they have to take part in a tournament in a really distant town in the worst possible conditions, and then it's raining all the time. So they're just struggling, and they're facing other situations apart from the sports situations, and then I just like the title, and I say, okay, I'm gonna go with this title to put it on the whole book.
Okay. So that's a collection of short stories, is it?
Exactly, 9 short stories.
Okay. You were talking though about your kind of contemporary style. I want to come back to that because, like I've read a few different books on Colombia, mostly political books or history, but they focus obviously on la violencia and the cocaine problem, and obviously there's a lot of material in that. Whereas this book, it just touches on everyday life, which is kind of different, and from the child's perspective. Are there many books in Spanish about Colombia in that regard, or is this something kind of new?
Well, no, I think it's like some writers, we are trying just to go in the quest of just simple stories. But because the themes are there, the themes are, the themes like make us as a country, we know them, and they're still there, like underneath what we write, underneath the stories. And La Casa de Agua, for instance, is a story that deals a lot with violence, So that's why I was making these separations between 2 types of writers in Colombia, because some really good writers, they really want to tackle the problem of the drug dealing, the cocaine, the mafias, the paramilitarism, and all those really important subjects, in a really direct way. In my case, like other writers as well, we prefer maybe some more simple stories, but the subjects are still there, maybe in a distant way, or they're just part of or it's just a reflection, or something that happened before, or is going to happen, something like that. And in this case, in La Casa de Agua, the violence is there, you see, and actually one of my readers, compare the situation with the whole country, with the history of Colombia. They say like the absent father is like the state, something like that, and it's just leaving its populations, just drifting away in a very difficult situation, in which they have to come up with the best of them to survive. And it's a little bit like that, so violence is there. Also the subject about bully, because this is unfortunately a culture that is just so strong in that difficult matter. Also is part of the book. You gotta be very resilient with the conditions. If you're not like an alpha male or female, is going to be very difficult for you to just go forward. So it's a little bit of that.
Yeah, interesting. Were they themes that you were conscious of writing it, or did you just write based on the stories and anecdotes that you had and your own imagination, and then it just so happened that, the absent father stands for the Colombian state?
Exactly. I suppose there are some writers that they have maybe a more intellectual line, let's say, and they prefer to tackle themes in a really creative way. Like they have like the idea of talking about, let's say, sexism, and they create a story about that to just show the problem. In my case, it's just I go for the plot or the character, because for me, actually, the characters are the most important things in a book and a story. So, and little by little, because everything is inside you, it's just part of you. All those problems kind of come up, and they just become part of it.
Okay, and of course, like a link, and we'll talk about Ireland in a little bit, but the Catholic priest features prominently as well in the book, and may like a few young girls in it too, so it seems. So you touch on those issues as well.
Exactly. For instance, that story about the priest is something that, according to my uncles and my dad, it really happened. There was this guy who was very like open, and of course, he was just a regular man. He just happened to be a priest, but he was just a regular man who liked women. But of course, he had to just pretend that he didn't like them, or he was just like a very honorable person, but he wasn't. And then also all those things that are just underneath that situation is really kind of fascinating and sad at the same time. Because the whole story is just completely full of sexism. Because it's just men. It's just a patriarchal society in which women they have a certain role in which they have just to behave and do what they're supposed to do. And then that's why the figure of the priest and the church in front of their house, it was very important for me for the story, because it was like a capital thing that they had to follow and to behave according to.
Yeah, and of course that's something that's very similar in Ireland, where the Catholic Church was very crucial, to everybody's lives practically, growing up, especially more in rural areas, and you're well aware of that from your Irish links. I just want to ask though about the book, writing from the perspective of a child. Is that something that you find easy to do? Because obviously I write, and I'll say this again, but I'm trying to kind of put together a book, perhaps, of my experiences here in Colombia, but it will be more obviously biographical rather than writing in a fictitious way. But writing it from the voice of a child, how does that? Did you find that easy for you, or what?
It's challenging. It's challenging because it's like, for instance, we go back to the Irish subject. You think about the Portrait of an Artist by Joyce. You see, like maybe it's so easy to get into the first chapters. I mean, like the way the first chapters were written, like a really easy, like the way a child talks or behaves. But then the beauty of the book is that it evolves, and then while the character is growing, the writing is getting more and more complex, So it's a little bit of that. So of course I didn't want to be, or I didn't want to create a character that it was very, very difficult, like that it was going to sound like an adult talking. So I had to create, like different types of writing, and then finally I got this one that it was like, okay, it sounds more like a kid. And of course I read a lot of Mark Twain and other great writers and books, in which the kid is the main voice.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging because sometimes you think like this kid shouldn't be talking like this, or shouldn't analyze these kind of situations in this way, because it's not going to be really believable. So what I used is like he had this way of thinking, of analyzing things, it was like by comparison, making comparisons all the time, like if this character is like this, it's supposed that it's gonna behave in a certain way because of that context or whatever. It was just more like that.
And how long did the whole project? Because as I said, I'm kind of tinkering with the idea of writing. I have more than tinkering with the idea. But as a project, was this something you were working on for years, or how long did it take to put it all together?
Actually, it took me about a year, because it's not a long book. But then after, it came just the time to correct, to rewrite some chapters, or to reorganize a little bit of things. But let's say overall, I would say like a year and a half, something like that. Okay. Because actually it was part of my thesis in the creative writing program at the National University. So with this novel, I got the graduation.
Okay. So the guts of it were already there. Then it was an idea of getting it ready for book format. Okay. I'm not sure. I know in the book, babies cry a lot. And I don't know if you can hear, there's a baby crying here in this house. If people can hear, I'm not sure if they can.
Oh, no, I can't.
Oh, okay, well, I can certainly hear it anyway. I hope he's okay. But I want to talk then about Ireland. And you mentioned Joyce, and I know you studied literature, was it? At University of
I studied, I studied communications.
Oh, okay.
And then, well, I always wanted to be like an artist or arts journalist, But in this country, it's a little bit tricky, because as you've seen, there are not so many media outlets, about arts or other types of, entertainment. It's not like the US or Europe. Like there are plenty of spaces. So little by little, I felt like I needed to do something else. So that's why I submitted to this program, the creative writing, because I always wanted to create a book or to write, to create stories, and then I took this program and I met our friend in common, Joe Broderick. And everything started to change.
Yeah, so Joe, of course, he was on the brother podcast of this that I did with Sumana earlier this year. It was, in February actually. A fascinating character.
He is.
Joycean, I think a Joycean scholar as well, and Beckett, and an actor, a thespian talent. He's been in telenovelas. He's done it all here in Colombia.
Exactly.
Kind of the father figure for all us foreigners of Australian-born of Irish descent. So Joe Broderick was the catalyst then that sent you to Ireland. Is that correct?
Kind of, yeah. I would say that, yes. It was a kind of a funny, and it's like the stories happen. It's just you have to be there, and I got the privilege of being his teaching assistant. He was at this program. He was invited to teach on Beckett, So it was a whole seminar on Beckett for just like 4 months. And it was great for the students. And I was there, and it was fabulous. And then, so I was the guy who was getting the books for him, the DVDs, getting the copies, organizing the rooms, and getting in contact with the students and so on. And then little by little, he started introducing me to the Irish culture, because I thought when I met him, like, okay, this guy's from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting why this guy is teaching Irish stuff, And of course, when I met him, he was just 100% or maybe more Irish.
Yeah.
And then he said to me, "Well, you first you go to Carulla and get a Jameson if you haven't tried." And of course, I haven't tried, and I got a bottle of Jameson and I tried. And it was like very different because till that point I had just tried regular Scottish whiskey, which is very different. I suppose like the Irish whiskey is more like the bourbon, right? In the US.
Yeah, I'm not a whiskey connoisseur, but it's softer
No,
anyway.
me neither.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so we started talking about that. He told me he lived there, that his son was there, and then after I finished the program, I got this job, and I was a little bit dissatisfied, a little bit. So I saved some money, and I just decided to go there because mostly people go either to the US, the UK, or Australia. For when they wanna try a different experience and get to know the world and improve their English skills, whatever. And then I just wanted to go to Ireland, and it was very difficult because there's no Irish embassy here. And then I met people
at the time, of course, there is
at the time. Yeah. Now is that which is great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of complicated. So I had to wait for a long time to get a visa because we had to send the documents to Mexico. And I remember I wrote to Joe, I don't know if it's happening, but I just want to go. And then it happened. I got the visa and I went, and I can say it was a life-changing experience. It was amazing for me.
And so what did you do? That was 2011 to 2014. Am I correct? Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah.
So what was the idea? Just to improve your English and enjoy the country, or was there a plan?
That was the excuse, because in order to get there, you gotta have a like a course, like you have to buy something like a study.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise they won't just let you be, or maybe they're going to give you just a 3 months visa or something like that. So I paid for this course and I got a 1-year visa as a half student, half part-time worker or something like that. And my idea was just to be there and just to know the culture, the people, and that was all. And then of course I started as a student, English student. And I improved, of course. It was bad because the first time when I got there, I just didn't understand anything they were saying.
Well, Irish English is something different as well. So
exactly. So the accent was very difficult to understand for me at first, and then little by little, And then I just first thing I got or I started to do was just listening to RTE constantly, RTE radio every time when I was working, because I had to work on the street sometimes, and it helped. And then I got different jobs, and it was great. It was just great.
Yeah. Would you go back though? It's now 6 years since you left. You haven't been back, I take it.
No, exactly. I I really want to go back. At least I want to say hi to some friends, Irish friends. And I mean, that's the beauty of Ireland nowadays, is like you can meet people from all over the place, all over the world. And that was fascinating to me, because I grew up in this small town, and unlike other countries, for us, at least for middle class people or working class people like myself, traveling abroad is just it was like a fantasy, Even sometimes just traveling across the country was kind of unheard. Just maybe rich people could go to Barranquilla or Santa Marta if you are from the mountains. So anyway, when I just got there and I started to meet people from Africa, Asia, different countries of Europe, it was fascinating, fascinating. So I really want to go back. Sometimes with my wife, we talk about it and say you never know. We should try maybe someday, or at least for holidays.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind it if I have to go back during winter as well.
Well, good luck with that. You could go now, although Ireland's returning to a bit of a severe lockdown for the next few weeks, so it's not the time
Yeah,
to go.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
unfortunately.
heard. Exactly. Yeah.
But I guess Dublin, because obviously you were based in Dublin. It's
Yes.
for a small city, relatively cosmopolitan. So my kind of next question to that is, did you have more international friends than Irish friends? Because I've heard it said that the Irish can be a little bit like, okay, we'll go, oh, welcome a Colombian in Ireland, great, but to be part of the group, it can be more difficult. Was that your experience or not? Or are you going to be diplomatic?
No, that was my experience as well. Yeah. But for instance, I have a great friend, a great guy, Kenneth, the Irish guy, and we
Okay.
just still after. I mean, I left in 2000. I mean, December 2014, and we still chat constantly. You know, we talk about movies or soccer or things like that, or the things that are happening in the world, and it's a beautiful friendship. And of course, it's not like I have hundreds of Irish friends, because as you mentioned, it's not that easy. It happens everywhere. It's not easy. As well, I have friends here from the US or from other parts of the world, and as well, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to connect
Yeah.
to the locals, you know. And then the problem for some people was that they preferred to hang out with just people of their own culture, you know, because it was so difficult for some people just to leave everything behind and be someone else. And I met a lot of Colombians or Brazilians that they were just living in bubbles, you know, like a Brazilian bubbles or Colombian bubbles. They were just talking in Spanish or Portuguese and watching Colombian soap operas on YouTube and things like that. And of course, their experience is going to be like kind of weird, in my opinion. But the first thing I did whenever I knew how to I don't know, like handle things in Dublin, I just decided to go on a place sharing an apartment with just Irish people. And I met these guys from Cork. You're from Cork, right?
No, I'm actually from Roscommon. No.
Oh, Roscommon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys, they welcomed me, and we shared the house for like 2 years, and they were just wonderful people. And it was great. And of course, sometimes you cannot get to the level of, let's say, a friendship. Sometimes because of the language barrier or for other reasons, the age gap. There's so many reasons. But yeah, I think you just gotta try, of course. And I have friends from Italy, from Africa, etc.
Yeah. No, I certainly agree. Like you do have to make an effort because, as you mentioned, and it
Yeah,
can be even
exactly.
worse for English speakers here in Bogota, for
Yeah,
example, because
exactly.
there's a relatively big English-speaking community, and you can. I know some people here, and they don't really need to speak Spanish day to day because their work is in English, and they can socialize in
Exactly.
English. But I've kind of have gone out of my way. Like I live way up the north of the city in Verbanal, where you don't see too many other foreigners. So most of my friends,
Exactly.
yeah. So you do have to make that little bit of an effort. It is true to do that. By the way, you mentioned soccer and things like that. Did you get into Gaelic football or hurling at all, or was that just above your head?
No, it was fun to watch. Yeah, I went to, for instance, to the Phoenix Park, and I watched some games every now and then because it was very different. It was just fascinating to me, like something like soccer with playing with actually real, like really like American football, you know, playing with the hands, with the foot. It was very interesting. And
Yeah.
hurling as well. It was a very different story. Also, I got to know rugby because I didn't have pretty much any idea about it. It was great.
Yeah, of course. Well, we are sports mad in Ireland for the size of the country. Like we
Exactly.
regularly, well, before COVID times, and when you could go to games, you'd have lots of people for the size of the country at games, like Crow Park with 82,000 people, and that would be full for quarterfinals and semi-finals. So yeah, we do like our sport in Ireland, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
go on. Yeah.
No. For such a small country in terms of population, that you always have a, a girl or a guy, even in cycling or boxing or some really important people on football. That's great.
Yeah, our football soccer team at the minute isn't doing fantastic, but anyway, we'll get through this.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
get through it.
It's,
Unlike
it's not the, yeah, it's not the team of 30 years ago, right?
no,
The
no,
1990. No.
certainly not, certainly not. Just going to ask you, Giovanni, before we wrap this up, are you working
Yeah.
on another book project at the minute, writing project, or are you just focused on day-to-day chores? I know you've got a 14-month-old daughter as well to take care
Yeah,
of.
well, that takes most of my time, but I'm really happy to do it, to be with my little one. But yeah, actually, I'm working on a new book. It's a novel. It's probably going to be longer than La Casa de Agua. This is going to be focused on the army because, as you may know, it's mandatory in this country still, to go and be for a year. Or I don't know exactly now. I think it's for nearly 2 years, something like that. And then I had to be part of the military forces for a year, 1999. So
Can I
it's a
just say one
novel.
thing, Giovanni?
Yeah,
That's
please.
a sign of a true working class Colombian, because I know a lot of, we'll say, middle to upper class Colombians who always find a way out of doing military
Yeah,
service.
exactly. Yeah, there's some ways, even with money or with acquaintances, friends. Yeah, to get out of that situation. I had to go, and of course, it's not the most pleasant place to be, but you learned. Yeah, you learned something, and it's part of it. It's part of the life.
So you were 99, so you were 19 when you
Exactly. I would
yeah.
say I was most of the year I was 18 years old, and yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So it's a novel based on my experiences. Hopefully, it's gonna be like La Casa de Agua. I like to come up with I wouldn't say funny stories, but more like a maybe a little bit. I
Dark
don't know, like
humor in a sense, or yeah.
yeah, exactly, something like that. Well, I like a lot like Irish writers, in that sense. I like Kevin Barry or Flann O'Brien. They're really funny, so something like that, or this Czech writer Bohumil Raval. So I
Yeah.
like to create. It's not a purpose. It's not like one of the first goals when I write a book to be really funny. But it's if I try to come up with something at least like pleasant, that's nice.
Yeah, little touches of humor here and there. I think
Yeah,
it's
exactly,
always nice.
exactly.
So it's not going to be a really heavy work, but is it going to be based completely on your own experiences, or more fiction then? Or
No, fiction. Yeah, no, a lot of just like what I know and what I've been told about it, and the experience that I had, and also the experience other people that I know had when they were in the army for a year. Because it's
yeah,
kind of funny actually in a way, because it's like this a little bit like this novel. Which is very different. It's a very dramatic novel by this Italian Dino Bussati. It's a novel. I don't know the name in English of this. Like waiting for the desert of the Tartars. They were just waiting. It's just this army just waiting for an attack
yeah.
that never happens, And it's a little bit like that, because when you go there to the army, you just learn how to be a soldier, and that's all. And you wait till it's over. You don't go to a battle or to war unless it's a critical situation that's never happened. Because in this case, you are, they call it like a bachelorette soldier. Just someone who finished their high school and then they just go to the military.
Were you just based in the academy then, or were you sent out in the field during your time?
No, I was. I had to be in this battalion in Tunja for a year, and that
Okay.
was all I was doing. I was just doing guard there. I mean, I knew how to shoot a rifle and all those stuff, and just to be there, and waking up at 4 a.m, take a really cold shower every day, and it was part of it.
Okay. Cold shower in
Yeah.
Tunja. That doesn't sound
Exactly.
that sound like fun. Bit different if you're having a cold shower in Barranquilla or something. That's okay, but not in Tonga, high up in the mountains.
Sure, exactly.
So, what's the estimated time of arrival or publication for that book?
Well, it's a little bit complicated because now as you know, writers have to do a lot of promotion as well because it's very difficult. It's very competitive nowadays. So you have to do a little bit of everything. So I'm working on the Casa de Agua promotion, and then I have to finish this. Hopefully, I'll be finishing by 2022. I mean, like by the end of next year, hopefully, and then maybe 2022 to get publisher. We'll see. It's a long process, but
will you be working with, and you're on about, you have to do your own publicity and things, so I'll go again. There's the book. The publisher of this is Lobo Blanco, yeah? So will you be working with the same guys? Have they promised, or is that difficult?
Well, yeah, they want to work, or we want to work together. We want to keep working together, of course. But sometimes they have a line, like they really focus on poetry or like not really long narratives, like not really long books. And this one seems to be kind of long, extended, because there's a lot of stories. So we'll see what's gonna happen.
No, best of luck with it. And of course, you're doing day-to-day work as well. You do editing and proofreading.
Exactly.
And are you teaching as well at the moment, virtually?
At the moment, no, because of the pandemic, it was very difficult. So we stopped for a while. I was teaching Spanish for foreigners.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of them because of the situation, because it was face to face, and sometimes some of them are not really comfortable with the technology. Not that they don't know how to use it, but like the feeling, when you're talking or when you're trying to explain something. So some people have to say, okay, let's just stop a little bit and we continue later whenever this gets better.
But there's still money coming in anyway, at least, because for artists and writers and journalists, it's been a difficult time. Yeah.
It's super difficult, and we gotta be resourceful and just stick with the plan and
and hope for the best. I guess that's what we're all going almost day to day, week to week. So where can people pick up the latest? And so La Casa de Agua, if people are interested in purchasing it, where can they find it?
Thank you. Well, they can find it in several bookstores here in Bogota. They can find it in Casa Tomada, which is a great bookstore in Palermo, in downtown as well. In La Candelaria, in some bookstores as well. El Bukowski is a bookstore. Wilborada, San Librario, some others. Also, they can just go on to my website, giofigueroa.com, and you can order your book there through one of these bookstores as well. Or
Okay, so they can just, I'm sure if they do a search online, they'll quickly find anyway where they can get it.
Hopefully, exactly.
And hopefully, I take it, when we're talking with budding writers and people starting off on this, it's not going to be a financial success for you, is it? Or hopefully it is, but I take it that's probably a long way down the line.
It's a long way, but I'm happy that already with the sales, we've been able to cover the expenses, with the marketing, with the promotion and everything. And also the publishers, they told me that it's going kind of even. So it's not like, oh my God, it's just it was a terrible financial project. No, it's even at the moment. Excellent. So it's been really, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful with the response of the people, friends or some students, teachers, people who know me, being really very enthusiastic about the book, and the response has been just really outstanding. So I'm really happy.
And as I said, Giovanni, and I mean this, like for somebody who, as I said, I read newspaper articles, but I've never really read too many books in Spanish. But it's relatively easy to read. So for somebody who is maybe intermediate and higher, I think it's a fun read, and it gives a nice snapshot of Colombian life in the 60s as well, rural life
Mhm.
in Boyacá, which I find fascinating. There's a lot of things that I can relate to. Giovanni, an absolute pleasure. So thanks a million for joining us. I'll let you get back. I hope your daughter is not going to wake up or anything now.
No, thank you. And then it's been a pleasure. Yeah, great talking to you.
Excellent. And I just do my own little bit of promotion as well. If people want to get in touch with me, they can via the Twitter handle at WA Corrigan. You can find me on Facebook at Wrong Way Corrigan blog. But until the next time, guys, it's ciao ciao from me and ciao ciao from Giovanni.
Okay, thank you. Bye, guys.